Of course I'll help. You just took me by surprise. I glanced at my sister and sighed. Your wedding is only 8 weeks away. Couldn't you have waited? Lily, with the face of an innocent babe, raised her handkerchief to her watery eyes. That's exactly the point, Franny. We saw no reason to wait. As she waved the handkerchief dismissively, Hetty drew back and took her own seat. After all, we'll be married so soon. I had no idea it could happen this quickly. You and Reggie were married for some time before Rose came along, and Aunt Hetty was married for years and never had children. How should I have known? How should I have known was not likely to pass muster as an excuse for our mother. I could just imagine her reaction had I made such an announcement before my wedding. Though now I think about it, it wasn't as if there'd been time. My mother had singled Reggie out as a possible husband for me before we even left New York. A mutual friend introduced us soon after we'd arrived in London. Reggie and I danced a few times, he and my mother came to terms, and we were married without ever having a chance to become acquainted. Have I mentioned the marriage was a disaster? Is it any wonder I wanted Lily and Leo to have a long engagement period, to take some time and come to know one another? Clearly, they came to know one another all too well. Now what were we to do? Leo suggested we elope, Lily said almost in a whisper. Her words pulled me from my thoughts. Oh, no, dear, that will never do. She balled the handkerchief in her fist. Well, we can't wait 8 weeks as we'd planned. How on earth will I explain giving birth so soon? It would be less than 6 months. You wouldn't be the first, dear. Hetty patted her hand. No, you wouldn't, but if it can be avoided, so much the better. However, an elopement is almost a proclamation that one is with child. I agree the original wedding date is out of the question, but an elopement is not a satisfactory alternative. So, where did that leave us? Since Lily seemed to have recovered herself, I ventured to ask another tricky question. What does Leo's mother say? She gawked at me as if I'd just asked her to set herself on fire. Mrs. Kendrick says nothing, as she has absolutely no idea of our situation. Her voice had become a shriek. You cannot seriously think I'd tell her. Francis, I'd die first. She stared and clutched at her throat as if choking. I'd simply die. Well, we can't have that, but how do you intend to keep this from her? That was the point of the elopement. I was relieved to see Hetty narrow her eyes in confusion. Were you planning to elope and stay away for 9 months? She asked. Lily took a breath to speak, then stopped herself, sinking against the back of the chair. Father, I suppose we'd have to, wouldn't we? Leo couldn't do that, dear, at least not without giving his father a very good reason. Unless he can come up with a plausible lie, you will still have to tell him the truth. Mr. Kendrick isn't likely to allow him a 9-month wedding trip. Leo Kendrick was a businessman. In fact, he was a partner in his father's business. I wasn't entirely cognizant of what he did, except a portion of the business involved mining and part manufacture. His grandfather had started the company, and his father expanded it and made it quite profitable, enough to raise his daughters as gently bred ladies and send his son to the best schools and raise him as a gentleman. Though he planned for Leo to take over the running of their enterprise eventually, all 4 of the children were expected to make advantageous marriages. Leo's oldest sister, Eliza, had done just that, and Leo's choice of Lily also met with his father's approval. Thank goodness, as the two were hopelessly in love. They'd have married months ago if I hadn't urged them to wait. I pulled my thoughts up short. I was not about to take responsibility for Lily's pregnancy. But looking at her now, lost in her misery, I felt compelled to come up with a solution. As did Hetty, it seemed. Since she'd come in here to support Lily, she must have known about her condition at least a bit longer than I. Have you any ideas, Aunt Hetty? She shook her head. I thought an elopement was their best option. It's not a horrible option, but it should be considered only as a last resort. Surely we can think of something better. You're right. Hetty squared her jaw in determination. We are 3 intelligent women. What would we do if we had every possible...